Welcome. This is Uncommon Sense, a podcast presented by the Heshe CPA Knowledge Center. The center is an initiative of the CPA Education Foundation, the charitable arm of the chartered professional accountant profession in Alberta. Our weekly episodes feature conversations with Alberta CPAs, sharing their insights on a wide range of timely topics. Alberta CPAs work in every part of the economy and volunteer their time and expertise in virtually every community in Alberta. With each episode, we bring you voices and perspectives that reflect the diverse knowledge and contributions that CPAs bring to our province.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense. On some episodes of our podcast this season, we'll be catching up with a few CPAs who'd previously been guests on the show. We're checking in with these CPAs because they've got some news or updates to provide that we think will be of interest to our audience. That's certainly the case with today's guest, Nadine Niba, CPA. Nadine was a guest last season when she shared her inspiring story of immigrating to Canada and how she overcame some very difficult obstacles to achieve her career and life goals. Nadine was born and raised in Cameroon in West Africa and migrated to Canada in 2014. Based in Calgary, Nadine currently leads the Risk Advisory Services practice for BDO in Alberta. Since the last time she was a guest on Uncommon Sense, Nadine has done something that is pretty special. She has written and published a best-selling book that outlines a plan for achievement and success for immigrants to Canada. The book is called Quarterback, and I'm delighted that Nadine has come back to our studio to tell us all about the book. Welcome back, Nadine.
Thank you so much, Gordon. I'm happy to be here.
Well, listen, Nadine, I've got lots of questions for you today about your book and what you've been up to. But before we get to all that, I want to start with the question that we're asking every guest this year. And that question is, do you have a piece of uncommon sense to pass on to us? That might be a valuable piece of advice, a life hack, or any little life lesson that has meant something to you. What have you got?
Oh yeah, I have a piece of advice. And one life hack I would like to share is it's very important to always look good.
And what do you mean by that?
All the time. What I mean is it's important to always be properly groomed, wear clothes that fit. As a lady, I don't know if you love high heels, always wear your high heels, get your hair done, have your lipstick on, look prim, proper, polished at all times. Looking good is good for business, regardless of what business you're in.
That's a great piece of advice, Nadine. Thanks for that. Okay, so let's turn to your book, Quarterback. Can you talk about where the idea for your book came from and what it's all about?
Yes. So quarterback is the metaphor I use for the book. The book is An Immigrant's Guide to Corporate North America. So what I basically did is I compared the essential qualities and traits of a quarterback to the kind of qualities and traits that an immigrant needs to succeed in corporate North America. The reason why I use the quarterback metaphor is because what defines the essential qualities of a quarterback are the same qualities that define effective leadership under pressure. So if you're looking at things like field vision, understanding a quarterback sees the entire field, they think about it in their head before they get into the game. And even while they're in the game, they have a 360 view of what's going on in the field. If you look at pocket presence, regardless of how the tensions are high or they're mounting or whatever may be going on in the game, the quarterback stays calm. Confidence is another one. Sometimes, even while they're in the game and their opponent may be winning, the quarterback doesn't just say, okay, my opponent is far ahead, I'm done, I can't continue this game. They play with the same level of enthusiasm and speed and focus until the final whistle is blown. So those are just some of the qualities. And so when I looked at the qualities of a quarterback, it spoke to me, especially my own journey and all the things that I've had to put at the forefront, the resilience, the tenacity, the courage, not taking no for an answer. I kept going even when I got rejections. those qualities became essential for me to demonstrate in the book. So the inspiration largely came from my own personal journey and all the hurdles I went through along the way. And then going through my career process and working for all these amazing organizations and holding different leadership roles, people leadership roles across these organizations, and being a person that most of the immigrants in these firms felt comfortable speaking to me about the struggles they were going through. I got to a place where I understood that a lot of immigrants in corporate North America are going through different struggles, and to each individual, they feel like what I'm going through is unique to me. But when you speak to so many immigrants, you realize that different people, unique people, but the foundation of everything everyone was going through was the same. I'm struggling with understanding the culture. How do I fit in? How do I get my job recognized? I feel very misunderstood. I feel like sometimes when I speak, others don't understand me. So one person could be going through that and they think it's unique to them, but it's a general problem, including my own struggles. So looking at my story, going through my journey, being somebody that had been a listening ear and a source of comfort to so many other people like me, I got to a point where I said, it's going to be great for me to put this in a book for a couple of reasons. The first is to create the enlightenment for so many others who are coming in so that they understand that when you're going through those struggles, it's not unique to you. When you understand that something you're going through is not unique to you, it has a psychological effect. It changes the way you look at it. And you get encouraged because you feel like, okay, if others have gone through this, I can probably speak to them and I'm going to find a solution on how to navigate it. So that's one. Two, to make the journey easier for those coming after me and the set of immigrants that are currently in corporate North America so that they can do better. And finally, to highlight the strengths that immigrants possess when they've lived in different continents. And this is actually a study that was done by Harvard Business School, that when people live in different continents, they develop a higher sense of self, more self-awareness, which can translate to greater success in the workplace because their cultural intelligence level is very high. And so they can understand different cultures, the way people from different places do things, and so they can better relate with people. So I highlighted the strengths that immigrants possess: resilience, cultural intelligence, the fact that they are more exposed, having lived in different places. And finally, I brought in the quarterback parallel, which shows the essential traits that they can incorporate and develop so that they can become the quarterback of their career.
Well, those are all really important concepts, and I can see where they would fit into a book around that theme of being your own quarterback or being the quarterback of your career.
Exactly.
So, Nadine, as you said, you draw on your own experiences as an immigrant in order to illustrate larger themes in the book. What was it like for you to talk about yourself so openly for all the world to read? Was that tough to do?
It was vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because I thought about, what if people read this and they judge me? So I had sleepless nights, especially after the book was released and then it was selling out so fast. For the first 1 week, I almost got depressed. I wasn't sleeping. Like, I will be up at 3 a.m. thinking, what if someone gives me a call and they're like, why did you have to put yourself out there like that? Why did you have to put your story out there like that? I just had a lot of what ifs in my mind to put my own story out there the way I did. However, the writing process was extremely therapeutic for me. I actually really enjoyed writing. Like, sometimes I used to sit on my desk at 9 a.m., 11 p.m., I'm still there. I haven't stood up. I haven't gone down to eat lunch, nothing. And my mom will come to me and say, hey, Nadine, you haven't eaten. Can you come down and eat? And I'm like, please, no one should interrupt me at this point in time. I'm in a zone of flow. I just don't want to stop. So the writing process was very therapeutic for me, and I enjoyed it. But when it came to the part of the book going out, because at the point of writing, only you knows what is in there. But when it came to the part of the book going out, I had all these what ifs. What if people read this and they don't like me? What if people judge me for putting the story out there? I've overcome it now, but it was there.
I can see where that would be really difficult. I don't know if I could do it, to be honest. So your book also draws on the stories of other immigrants with whom you spoke, who you mentioned. Was it difficult to convince those people to share their stories with you? Were they reluctant at first to chat, knowing that it would be in a book? I know you changed names and so on, but still, it can be tough to get people to talk sometimes. Did you have that problem?
No, it's been, and I don't know if it's a gift that I have. I've always been the person that people felt free to talk to about the things they were going through. Complete strangers. They just send me messages on LinkedIn. Hey, Nadine, do you have time for a call? I want to talk to you about something I'm going through at work. In Canada and the United States. And then when the book got released, I was receiving calls from people in UK, in Australia, and they're telling me, I read your book, and even though you said it's corporate North America, I'm going through the same things in the UK. I'm going through the same things in Australia. And I said, I think it's universal. I just use corporate North America because I am in corporate North America. But people always feel free sharing their stories with me. But I also think that it's because I don't hold back when I'm talking about myself to others.
Well, I've read the book, and you definitely don't hold back in writing either. And you talked about your writing process, how you'd spend long days on kind of a flow of inspiration and energy for writing. When did you first come to realize that you were such a great writer?
As young as 8 or 9. So you remember the last time we were on the podcast, I told you that I was sent to business school at the age of 9. I was sent to business school. I started studying accounting 9 years old. Coming from Cameroon, Cameroon has that ability for parents to select for their kids to do specialized education from a very young age. So the truth is that if my dad did not select accounting at the age of 9, I probably would have gone into literature and poetry, because before I got into secondary school and started doing accounting, while I was in primary school, the only thing that I was known for was for writing excellent essays. I used to be a nerd, so quiet. Nobody really knew me in class. And the first time people knew that there was somebody in the class called Nadine was when the teacher, our literature and poetry teacher, had given us assignments to go home and write poems. And so when she came back to class the next day, she said, I received such an amazing poem from someone called Nadine.
Oh, wow.
Who is she? And then I'm tiny, I put my hand up, and she's like, I need to read this poem in front of the whole class. And she read it, and it was spectacular. And so then when I moved to business school, definitely English language is one of the subjects that got taught in business school. So in English language, they always made us write essays. And every time we wrote essays and I submitted mine in, the teacher will always come to class and read my own essay in front of everybody. And she's going to say, this is just so spectacular. There was a point where she asked us to write essays on the person that has made the most impact on your life. And I wrote about my mom. And when she came back to class, she read the essay in front of the class. I was in a boarding school. She took my mom's number and called my mom to come to school. And she gave my mom the essay and said, your daughter wrote this about you.
Wow.
My mom took that essay back home and showed it to all her friends.
I'll bet she did. So we might
Yeah.
be seeing a book of poetry from you sometime in the future then. Is that possible?
Maybe, maybe not. Like when I was in the university and I made friends, on each of their birthdays, what I gave them as a gift was a handwritten poem.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I want to turn it now to some of the specific topics covered in your book. In Quarterback, you discuss how too often immigrants see the first job offer they get in Canada as someone doing a favor for them. You say it isn't a favor, it's an exchange of value. Can you talk more about that?
Yes. And the reason why I said too often immigrants see their first job as a favor is based on facts and data. Because for as many immigrants as I have spoken to, every time somebody received their first offer and we're talking about it, I'm like, okay, this is your first offer. You don't have to sign it just yet. Like the way I did. When I received my first offer, I had been working 3 survival jobs that it was so physically demanding on me as a person, on my body, that I was longing for a job that was going to give me enough income to drop all of that. And so when I got that call, I didn't even wait for the recruiter to say, this is your compensation. I said yes. I said, whatever you're going to say is a yes. As I spoke to a lot more immigrants, most people were doing the same thing. And when I tried to dig deep into, okay, why do you just want to accept it? Like, oh, this is my first job. I don't want them to say no if I try to negotiate. I just really need a job so I can get the Canadian experience. I'm so very grateful that they gave me this job. That's the mindset. But realistically, we both know that no employer is going to give you a job just because they want to help you. They are giving you the job because they need your services and your skills. So you're offering your services and your skills to the employer in exchange for the salary or the income they're giving you. It's an exchange. And if you were not the best person who interviewed for the job, you wouldn't have been given the offer. You were not the only person they interviewed. They interviewed a couple of others, and they agreed that we think this person is more suited for the role. So there was something about you, your education, your skills, your experiences, the certifications you had, how much you've developed yourself into the professional that you are, that the employer wanted. It's a give and take. So nobody's really doing anyone a favor in that transaction.
Yeah, it's important to keep that in mind, whether, you're an immigrant or not. That's something that you can forget, especially when you're new to the workforce and just getting that first job offer. So yeah, thanks for that, Nadine. Just following up on that a bit, a consistent theme in Quarterback is that immigrants need to take charge of their careers and their lives and not just sit back passively waiting for good things to happen. Would you say that's a hard lesson for some immigrants to learn?
Yes, I think so. I think it's a hard lesson. And I think it's not just immigrants. I think it's almost every professional in the workforce.
Yeah.
It's a hard lesson for some people to learn. And there is something that I spoke about in the book about your career insurance policy. So, Gordon, this is my theory. A lot of people right now are preaching that self-employment is the way to go. That's the only way you're going to make an income. I think we need to make employment great again. Not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur. Some people will be employees. But I also see being employed as running your own business. And this is why I say that. You are the raw material that has been refined throughout several levels of trainings, from primary to secondary to high school, to getting a certification, to having experiences. And then now you are a product selling in the market of employment, different companies. And so you have to treat yourself as a product. You are your own company. So which means that as long as you're constantly developing yourself, staying updated with the improvements in your career, AI is changing the game. How does that impact my career as a CPA? Do I need to upskill, be ahead of the curve, taking part in the relevant industry conferences, being a thought leader in your field, being technically sound, and also being somebody who brings value to the profession? There's no reason why you should be shortchanging yourself in employment if you're actually putting in the work to be a sound, qualified, competent professional who is creating value. So if you find yourself in a work environment that is not willing to give you what you're worth, you move on and negotiate with someone else. Because just the way the company is focused on protecting their bottom line, selling their products, making their profit, you as a company, so when I say you as a company, you the individual, you also have to be focused on getting the best out of the investment that you have put in this product that is yourself. So I advocate for people staying in companies that there's an alignment in vision. As a professional, you have to have a personal vision of your career. And you should work in a company where the vision of your career aligns with the vision of that company, where the company is going. Because when there is no alignment, you find yourself in a situation where you say, this is what I want to be doing in my career right now. This is the kind of experiences I want to be having. This is where I want to go. And the company is saying, that's not the direction we want to go. So put this in the situation of an organization that their first goal is to maximize profit and then take care of their people. And they find themselves in a situation where their prime product that they want to maximize revenue on, the market is saying, we are not going to buy this product. I believe the company is going to come back in-house and see what research and development they can do to improve this product or tweak the product in a way that the market is going to accept it so they maximize their revenue. So as the professional, I think you should be doing the same.
You know, I like that metaphor or analogy between the company and the individual. It makes a lot of sense. Thanks for that, Nadine. Nadine, you spent a lot of time in Quarterback discussing how immigrants can adapt to and thrive in Canadian office culture. Can you share any tips today about how to do that and even about maneuvering through the maze of office politics?
Yes. So just as much as I say that employers should put people in leadership positions that have cultural intelligence, I think that even the immigrants that also came from a different culture also need cultural intelligence to understand the Canadian culture. So understanding the Canadian culture as an immigrant is going to help you to get along with people better in the office. I'm an advocate for people being authentic and being who they are, but not authenticity at the expense of making others around you feel uncomfortable. The workplace is an environment where we have to make it comfortable for everybody, the immigrants and the Canadians, to coexist. And so that will mean that both parties being culturally intelligent to understand the cultural differences and make it a place where both parties can coexist. So that's the first thing that immigrants and non-immigrants need to do to have a better stay in the office. And then the second thing is learning the unspoken rules. I think this also fits back into the Canadian culture. So what I found out about the Canadian culture is people don't speak direct. A Canadian can give you feedback at work, which this is actually a negative feedback, but you get out of that conversation happy, like you did amazing. But in the African culture, feedback is very direct. So you have to learn how to listen to what has been said with words and what has not been said with words for your own good. And then balancing humility with assertiveness. Yes, you have to be confident that you know what you're doing. I encourage everybody to be in their element and be confident that, especially if you're competent, be confident in the value you're bringing to the table. But you have to strike a balance between the assertiveness and the confidence with humility. You have to know when to take feedback graciously, implement the feedback. And this is also part of self-development. If you're not taking the feedback, implementing the feedback to get better progressively, then you're going to be left behind. Office politics exists everywhere. The key is to not say that I'm not going to play politics. It's to get in the game and play the game like everybody else with the goal to get an outcome that is suitable for your career. So you have to understand the power dynamics. In every office that you go to, you have to understand the power dynamics. You need to understand who makes key decisions. You need to understand the people who have influence, even though they don't have the title to make those key decisions. And you have to align yourself with the key decision makers, ensuring that they have visibility into the work that you're doing. And you also always have to keep your integrity intact. Do the right thing at all times, get the job done that you've been asked to do excellently, align with the power centers ethically, the decision makers, ensure that the decision makers have visibility in the work that you're doing. When I talk about office politics, these are the things I'm talking about. And if you're able to hit all of these points, I don't see why you shouldn't have a smooth sail.
Well, just looking back at my own career, everything you say makes so much sense. It's sometimes you don't learn those things until much later, but it's great to hear you talk about things so insightfully. Nadine, since
it took me 5 years.
5 years, that's pretty quick. It can take some people 50 years.
Yes.
So, since its release in June 2025, Quarterback has had a lot of success. It was an instant bestseller at Amazon. It's been profiled on media sites in Canada and the US and elsewhere, apparently. And it has attracted a lot of interest since publication. What does it feel like to you personally to see your book get so much positive attention? Did you expect that level of success?
No, I did not expect it. I thought that this book was only going to get read by my friends and family. That's the honest truth. So when I woke up and I saw, oh my God, this book is selling on the top of the chart, that was when the imposter syndrome and the fear came in from how vulnerable I had been. I think for the first 1 week, I couldn't sleep. And I was speaking to everybody and anybody that understands me to find some comfort. I'm like, if something is going to go wrong, if people out there are going to hate me, are you still going to be my friend because I'm worried? And everyone kept saying, we don't understand why you're worried. What were you expecting? That the book was not going to do well? You were so vulnerable. You spoke about your story. You addressed an issue that is a very large area of concern in a country right now that over 50% of the population are immigrants. So naturally, a lot of people were going to relate to it. But for me, and so when I was able to get past that stage of fear and imposter syndrome and not sleeping at night, what changed was the calls and the messages and the feedback I was getting from those who had read it, how it spoke to them, how, like, somebody met me at an event, she had Quarterback, and she came to me and she said, Nadine, please sign my book. And then I take the book to sign. As I flipped through the pages, she had highlighted almost every page. I got goosebumps. And then some other person reached out to me and then sent me their feedback from work. And he said, this person sent me a message on Instagram and he said, Nadine, since I read your book, this is the kind of feedback I get from work right now. Completely black and white. This month, I got recognized as the top employee. So when I was getting feedback like that, it helped to push away the fear and the sleepless nights and the imposter syndrome. And then I got to a place where I was like, okay, this book is actually doing good. This is amazing. And another thing, I started saying, I don't think I'm the one who wrote this book. I think it could only have been God writing through me, because I cannot explain the fact that I write the book, it gets released on Amazon. When the book was released, as the author, I had not received my copy yet. So the publishing company had told me, Nadine, the book is ready to go. We are going to press publish if you give us the go ahead. However, your copy is still going to get to you in about 3 weeks. Do you want to wait to receive your copy before we press the button? And I just said, go ahead and press the button. So when the book was out there selling the way it was selling, I had not received my copy. I think that probably amplified the fear. And so I went to Amazon and bought a copy for myself. And then I started reading it. And then as I was reading it, I found myself also highlighting key things that were speaking to me. And then I didn't understand what was going on. So I sat down and had a conversation with my dad, because my dad also got a copy and the same thing was happening to him. He was highlighting, and every day I come back from work, you say, oh, I read this chapter. Can we talk about this? I found this so insightful. And so as we were talking, I said, but Dad, I don't understand what's going on. How did I write this book, but I'm also reading it as a third party and having the same effect? And then he said, there's something that happens to most writers. When you're writing a book, you are in a zone. It's flowing. You are writing. When you get out of that zone, it's two different people. The person who wrote the book, Nadine, at that time, and the person who is reading the book, it was Nadine the writer that God was using and Nadine the reader. So that's why you're experiencing what you're experiencing.
Wow. Well, it just so happens that my copy of Quarterback is marked up with a lot of highlighted spots as well. So that's a very common reaction, apparently. Nadine, we've run out of time, unfortunately, but I just want to end with one last question for you. Given the success of Quarterback, can we expect to see a second Nadine Niba bestseller in the future?
The bestseller part, I don't know, because is this something that I planned for? But probably, yes. I think that there's going to be another book coming.
Wow. Well, we can look forward to that. And if it's of the same quality as Quarterback, I'm sure it is going to be another bestseller. So thank you, Nadine. Thanks for coming in and talking about Quarterback. It's been really informative for me, and I think everyone, to hear you speak about the book, the valuable insights it contains, and the experience you had writing it. Congratulations on the book, and best wishes for continued success in whatever comes next for you.
Thank you so much.
By the way, listeners, if you're an Alberta CPA thinking about writing a book, the CPA Education Foundation's new self-publishing grant program might be of interest to you. Under the program, funded by the Foundation's Heshe CPA Knowledge Center, grants are available to help 2 CPAs per year self-publish their books. To learn more about this program, visit the Foundation's website at cpaalberta.ca/foundation and click on Heshe CPA Knowledge Center.
The Uncommon Sense podcast is presented by the CPA Education Foundation and funded by the Heshe CPA Knowledge Center. The Knowledge Center was created through a generous donation by the late Brian Heshe. Brian was a distinguished Albertan, business leader, CPA, educator, and community builder. His generosity and commitment to education underpinned his good works across Alberta throughout his lifetime. The opinions expressed on Uncommon Sense do not necessarily reflect the views of the CPA Education Foundation. We would like to acknowledge that CPA Education Foundation offices are situated on the traditional Treaty 6 and Treaty 7 territories and Métis Nation homeland. The Foundation acknowledges that we reside on traditional and ancestral territories of many Indigenous, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Their histories and culture influence our community to this day. The Foundation is committed to helping build a province where Indigenous people and their voices and experiences are heard, valued, respected, and celebrated. Technical and recording services for this podcast provided by Wolf Willow Studios in Edmonton. If you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about us. If you have any comments about the podcast, write to us at cpaef@cpaalberta.ca. To learn more about the CPA Education Foundation and the Heshie CPA Knowledge Centre, visit cpaalberta.ca/foundation.